grab a drink, get comfy, and prepare to learn about
the strange, the unusual, and the downright stupid things you didn't think that you needed to know about.
I'm Kaila.
And I'm Brooke.
And this is
Drunk in the Library.
Ooh, spooks.
The last
Technically.
day. Well, it's not
Technically, the spooks are already over. But Brooke and I are here to be spooky all the time.
Certified freaks 7 days a week.
Okay, cool. We have to quit now. Oh.
You're welcome.
Are they? Are they welcome, though?
I'm not apologizing for it, so...
All right.
I'm not proud of it, but I'm not apologizing for it. Anyway, so we have questions, comments, concerns.
Yes.
I would guess I'll do mine first. I was correct. It was in Greyfriars Kirkyard that those kids in 2004 broke into the Black Mausoleum, took George Mackenzie's head, played a little catch with it, and then were promptly arrested.
Which, like, I said, there's no way George Mackenzie is haunting that place if he didn't kill those kids for stealing his head. It's got to be somebody else's ghost.
But then, as I said, we don't know what happened to them. I don't know. They could have broken all their bones in their body after that.
That's true.
They could be dead.
That's
Who
true.
knows?
And then my question, comment, concern is that movie with Ryan Reynolds being buried alive. It is called Buried.
Clever.
Yeah. Original.
Very original. Very clever. And that 'tis all. So, in this final Spooktober day...
Oh, but wait. First, we've got support. Please support us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, all of the things. We also had a new episode of our YouTube series go up last night, so make sure you guys check that out. You will get to witness us in our glorious Halloween festivities.
Yes. Yes. Very exciting. And you'll hear a couple ghost stories from us, maybe hear some shit. I don't know yet.
Yeah. So yeah, check that out too if you guys are interested. We may or may not have gone ghost hunting and included some of that in it. Maybe.
We're not
Spoiler
gonna we're not gonna give it away. But yeah, go check that out. And then I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention.
Don't forget to vote.
Oh yeah.
I've been meaning to say that in the last like 5
I know,
episodes.
so have I. Get out and fucking vote.
Yeah.
Like, this election is like, first of all, the most stressful election of my entire life.
Yeah.
Even more stressful than the last one.
Which is saying something.
Second of all, it's your fucking God-given right to vote, so, like, do it.
Yeah, well, not God-given, country-given, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't talk about God here until we actually have to.
Which is today.
Oddly enough.
So, to kind of ease you guys out of the spook season, today we are talking about different cultures, like afterlife mythology, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So...
You're first.
Yeah, I'm first. I'm going to tell you about Norse mythology and afterlife today.
Oh, okay. I definitely thought you were going to do Egypt.
I debated it, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna go for the surprise.
I convinced myself, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing, and I'm pretty sure Kayla's gonna do the Egyptians, but you surprised me.
I did consider it, but then I was like, nah, I'm gonna do some Viking shit today.
Okay.
So my sources are NorseMythology.org, Wikipedia, obvi, and Ancient.eu.
Okay.
So, the Norse myths comes from the Vikings, obviously. People who lived primarily in Iceland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden during the Viking Age, which lasted from about 793 to about 1100 CE.
Okay.
They were largely a seafaring people, which we all know.
Yes.
And they traveled as far east as Baghdad and as far west as North America.
Sweet.
They discovered North America 500 years before Christopher Columbus, because fuck Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, we should get rid of that.
I know.
We'll call it Viking Day.
I think we do have Leif Erikson Day.
We do,
which I
but
assume that
like
he was a Viking, but I could be wrong.
Well, if I'm going by that SpongeBob episode, he's a Viking.
And also the name.
True.
They were a very tough people, conquerors and explorers and settlers. They spoke a Old Norse language and used runes to write. So basically, we actually have like a pretty solid foundation of what their traditional religion looked like, because they actually kept like pretty decent records.
Okay.
So I'm going to kind of go through not all of, because they have a ton of gods and goddesses. I'm going to go through like the major ones.
Okay.
And then I'm going to kind of break down some of their mythology.
Okay.
So the first and most well-known Norse god, both today and seemingly back then, is, of course, Thor. Thor is depicted traditionally as a hammer-wielding god. He is the protector of mankind. He is also often associated with thunder and lightning. He is the sacred groves of trees, strength, and fertility. He is generally depicted as fierce-eyed, red-haired, and red-bearded.
Interesting.
He is the husband of the goddess Sif, and the lover of Jark Saxa, who is a Jotun. Jotun are entities like dwarves and elves in this culture. He coincides with the Roman god Jupiter or the Greco-Roman Hercules. Thor is often associated with the swastika symbol because it was originally a Nordic symbol, and then it was like stolen in World War II, basically.
I feel like I knew that from when I did like Viking burials.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of knew that.
You probably did, because it was largely used as like a symbol of protection, largely for women, and you can find it on a lot of like old Viking graves.
Yeah.
It was often worn as a pendant on necklaces or belts. And we get the name Thursday from him because it stands for Day. Day of Thor. The next up is Odin. He's often depicted as having one eye and being flanked by a raven or a wolf. He is a pursuer of knowledge, primarily. In one of his myths, he hung himself upside down for 9 days and nine nights in a tree in order to bring humans their runic language. So he's the whole reason that Vikings had a language.
Oh.
He is often associated with death, wisdom, and poetry. He is the Roman equivalent of Mercury.
Okay.
We get Wednesday from his name, Woden's Day.
Oh.
He is married to the goddess Frigg. He is portrayed as the ruler of Asgard and the leader of the Aesir, which is like the principal pantheon of Norse gods. So like they've got their major like pantheon of gods and then the minor pantheon of gods. He and Frigg have a son named Balder. He also rules over about half the dead, a weight he bears with the goddess Freya.
Okay.
So Sif is the North goddess associated with the earth. She has long golden hair, and it's thought to like symbolize wheat.
Okay.
She is associated with family, fertility, and strangely enough, wedlock.
Okay.
She is the wife of Thor, and she once had her beautiful hair shorn off by Loki, and Thor then forced him to make her a golden headpiece.
Typical.
Freya is a beautiful and sensual goddess, but an incredibly powerful one. She is most often associated with love, fertility, sex, beauty, gold, war, and Seyor, which is a type of old Nordic magic that deals with, like, seeing the future.
Okay.
She is often depicted riding a chariot being pulled by 2 cats.
That's amazing.
Love it.
I'm here for that vibe.
Same.
I want in on that.
She is the wife of Oder, and they have 2 daughters, Nas and Gersemi. I'm apologize because I'm not going to say any of these names, right?
It's okay.
She receives the other half of those who die in battle.
Okay.
She wears a cloak of raven feathers that she frequently loans out to other gods and goddesses because it's said to have, like, mad fertility and love powers, like, steeped in it. So she'll just occasionally, like, loan it out.
That's kind of nice.
I know, I love it. Freya's brother, Freyr, is also a commonly depicted Norse god. He represents loyalty, human sexuality, the weather, and agriculture. He is often represented by a phallic statue.
Nice. Dick statue.
Nice.
Nice.
People often associate him with a good harvest, making him like an important piece of the Nordic and Germanic people's traditions. Mm-hmm. Freya and Freyr's father is the god Njord. He is associated with the sea, seafaring, wind, fishing, crop fertility, and wealth. So he's kind of like the Poseidon of the Norse mythology. Yeah. There isn't like a ton written about him, so we kind of just piece together like what we have about him from other sources.
Okay.
Frigg, the wife of Odin, is most closely associated with wisdom and insight. Friday comes from her name, which is pretty cool. Frigg's Day. Mm-hmm. There is some debate whether her and Freya are actually just the same goddess.
That's what I thought.
So, from the sources that I found, they're not, but nobody is totally certain about that. Like, some sources mention them separately, some sources, like, lump them together. Nobody is entirely sure.
Gotcha.
So, then there is Hel, who resides over the land of the same name. She also receives a portion of the dead. In some texts, she is the daughter of Loki. In others, she was appointed to her role by Odin. In some writings, she was half blue, half flesh-toned skin, and a gloomy appearance. Some say she resides over many mansions with servants. Some say she plays a crucial role in the attempted resurrection of Odin's son Baldur. So, again, like with her, there isn't a ton of concrete evidence. Mm-hmm. Baldur is the son of Odin and Frigg. His wife is Nanna, and their son is named Forseti. He isn't really, like, the god of anything, from what I could find. He's kind of more like Hercules in the Greek mythology, where, like, he's...
Like a hero?
Yeah, almost? Yeah. He's more like... I think his name translates to, like, prince. Okay. So he's kind of just, like, a god, but not, like, the god of anything.
Okay.
Which lame. I can get that behind. I'd be a goddess of nothing.
Oh, I'd be a goddess of everything.
Whoops. He is said to have died. His death was engineered by Loki and now resides in Hel. Throughout the mythology, there are, like, multiple attempts to resurrect him and bring him back to, like, the land of the gods. Mm-hmm. Finally, we have Loki.
I love him.
There is some debate as to whether or not Loki is actually a god.
No, he is. I assure you.
He is a trickster and a shapeshifter. In some myths, he's assisting the gods, and in some, he is acting maliciously towards them. We got a long list of the things he's fathered coming up here. He is the father of the wolf Fenrir, and the serpent Jormungandr. He is the father of Narfi and Nari by his wife Sigyn, and by the Salian Svalfari. He is the mother of the eight-legged horse Sleipnir.
What?
Yeah. Loki's a mom.
What?
So he, like I said, he's like a shapeshifter. So in that myth, he, like, shifted into a mare and gave birth to this eight-legged horse.
Like a spider horse.
Spider horse. That's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
No thanks.
Yuck.
In some works, he is also the father of Hel and Vali as well. So that's, like, basically our breakdown of the major gods of the Nordic religion.
Okay.
So there are two families of these gods, the Aesir and the Vanir. The Aesir contains gods like Thor, Odin, Loki, Baldur. They're kind of like your, not necessarily higher up gods, but they're the ones that, like, kings, merchants, wealthy people would normally consult.
Okay.
And then you have the Vanir, which contains the fertility gods. So Freya, Freyr, Sif, and that's who people of, like, more mundane, like, citizenship, I guess, would normally consult.
Okay.
So now let's move on to, like, the mythology of these gods. So before anything else existed, there were the realms of icy Niflheim and fiery Muspelheim.
Okay.
Through fate or destiny, the two worlds kind of touched, and two creatures emerged from the touching of these two worlds. The proto-giant Ymir and the cow Audhumla.
Okay.
Audhumla licked the ice and eventually uncovered Bori.
Okay.
She was thirsty.
This is getting weird.
Oh, it gets weirder.
Oh, I bet.
Bori is the fourth father of the gods. His son and daughter, born Bestla, got together and sired the first gods, Odin, Vili, and Ve. These three then killed Ymir and created the earth from his remains.
Okay.
So, if I'm not mistaken, it was like his body became the land, his bones became the mountains, his skull became the air, and his blood became the sea.
Okay.
And then the first humans are then fashioned out of trees and wood. Their names are Ash and Embla. Thus begins like a whole new phase. For a long time, the world was said to have lived in peace. The world tree, called Yggdrasil, stands in the god's home of Asgard.
Okay.
The three fates spin the fates of humans at like the base of the tree. Then, in the roots of the tree are said to encompass the human realm, aka Midgard, and the giants' realm of Jotunheim. The area around the tree is said to be a sea inhabited by a Midgard serpent called Jörgmundur, and yes, that is the one that Loki fathered.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Eventually, things kind of like snowball and create chaos, as they usually do, which leads to Ragnarok, which translates to the final destiny of the gods. So this is like the big battle of the gods, basically. Yeah. It begins with a terrible winter, the earth sinks into the sea, Fenrir breaks loose and devours the sun, and the Yggdrasil tree shakes and collapses the Bifrost, which is like the gateway between Asgard and Midgard.
Okay.
So then Odin fights Fenrir, but fails, and the god Vidar avenges him.
Okay.
Are you following so far?
Kind of, yes.
Okay. So then Thor kills the Midgard serpent.
Okay.
But is poisoned in the process and dies.
No.
Yeah, poor Thor. Gods and foes are dying left and right. Everything is chaos and really, really bad. Finally, the giant Surtur kindles a flame and just destroys the whole world.
Okay.
Eventually, a new world will form, coming not from the ashes, but from the sea. Some gods will remain, but mostly the new life will get to create their own gods and legends and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much like the base of the mythology of the Nordic peoples.
Okay.
Do you have any questions so far?
No.
Okay. That's pretty much the majority of it. Now we're going to move into, like, what did they believe in, like, their afterlife.
Okay.
So, the Viking culture didn't actually contain any formal rules regarding, like, what they believed from their afterlife.
Okay.
Our ideas of Viking death isn't really, like, what they have found from any, like, first-hand sources.
Okay.
So, it was thought that when you died, you went to, like, some sort of an other world. But there are a couple of different levels. Not levels, but, like, a couple of different other worlds, basically. Okay. The most famous of these is obviously Valhalla, which is the Hall of Odin. Odin and his Valkyries would choose people to sit in their hall, and they were, like, celebrated heroes. Okay. The catch of this being that when Ragnarok came around, you had to fight for Odin.
But, like, if you died... Where that, like...
That's a really good question. I don't have an answer.
Like, what happens then?
Maybe you just moved on to another hall.
I guess.
I don't know. Freya also had a hall called Folkvang. Unfortunately, it's, like, super seldomly mentioned in any source material, so all we know is the name. We don't know anything about what it's like there.
Okay.
Which makes me really sad, because I really dig Freya.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to that one.
I mean, you know nothing about it, so maybe not, but...
She rides a chariot with cats.
She does, but... I don't like things I don't know nothing about.
Those who died at sea were said to be taken to the underwater abode of Ran, who was a giantess.
Okay.
But most commonly, the Nordic people went to Hel, presided over by Hel.
Okay.
What they did there was just, like, basically the same thing that they did at home. They ate, they drank, they got to fight each other, they got to, like, hang out with their friends and family. It was pretty much just life part 2.
I would hate that.
Isn't that, like, what any good afterlife idea is, really?
No.
Mine is just, like, a dirt nap, but, you know.
Mine is very detailed.
We don't got time for this right now. Let me finish, then we can talk about that.
I just don't want to be forced into doing anything, all right? That's all I want. I want to lay about, lazy as fuck, and do nothing. I want no obligations, no responsibilities.
That's what I want, too. Dirt nap, man.
Yep.
So, nobody's totally sure how it's chosen where you'll go. it's been said that those who die in battle go to Valhalla.
Okay.
And those who die more peacefully go to Hel. However, this idea was posed by Snorri Sturluson, who was a Christian. I knew that name would get you. Yes. Would you like me to repeat that?
No. Oh, that, like, hurt. Snorri Snorlson?
What? Snorri Sturluson.
Okay.
Hey, man. I just type it after Google tells me it.
It's amazing.
And good old Snorri is known for trying to add organization and meaning where there might not be any.
Okay.
So, like, he kind of, like, organized his idea of the Nordic afterlives, but we don't actually think that that is what it is.
Okay.
There is also talk in Norse mythology of people being reborn, but it has to be into one of their descendants.
Okay.
Like, it's always somebody inside their own family.
Okay.
And the Nordic people held no concept of, like, reward or punishment in the afterlife either. So it was pretty much just, like, you dead. You're hanging out with one of the gods. I don't know which one. Seems random.
It's not good. It's not bad.
Yeah, it just is.
Alrighty, then.
Also, you might come back as your own, I don't know, grandkid.
Maybe.
Cool.
Weird, but
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, man. I don't know. I don't make the rules.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I knew nothing of Viking afterlives.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that, like, everybody knows about Thor and Loki and Odin, but do you really know about Thor and Loki and Odin? You know?
Nope. I know about Tom Hiddleston and
Exactly.
Chris Hemsworth.
Right.
And I'm cool with that. But that's cool, too. Huh. So you said you surprised me. I did not know that that's what you were going to do. But it's very interesting, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you about mine. Alrighty, we're back, and today I'm going to tell you about the Greek underworld.
Yes.
It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, okay.
I knew the second that we picked this topic, I was like, I want to talk about Hades. It's not what I thought.
No.
It is very different, actually. So, my sources are mylearning.org, joincake.com, greeklegendsandmyths.com, and Wikipedia, of course. So I don't have, like, a full breakdown of, like, the gods and goddesses that are involved in this, because there's not very many, so, like, I'll touch upon each person as we get through the steps of, like, joining the underworld, basically. Okay. In Greece, the dead are, like, super important to them, and honoring them is really important. If you don't honor the dead, it's considered incredibly disrespectful, regardless of what they did in their life. So it doesn't matter if, like, they were a shitty person, if they were the best person, you are supposed to honor the dead.
Okay.
In doing that, like, that is also kind of your key into, like, the good parts of the underworld. Like, if that's gonna happen, like, if you don't do any of that, if you don't care about the dead, if you don't care about honoring them or respecting them, your afterlife is not gonna be good.
Gotcha.
So, like, that's why it also is so important, not only for the dead, but for yourself in the future as well, as a future dead person.
Aren't we all?
We're just death waiting to happen. So tombs are super important. They're usually made out of marble. There's heads of gorgons that are carved into the tomb doors, and these are supposed to ward off, like, evil.
Okay.
The tombs were also, like, relatively elaborate because, like, it kind of meant that, like, the dead weren't forgotten. Okay. So, like, now
the fancier the tomb, the more remembered you are.
Yeah. So, sometimes they had pictures that, like, showed deceased people, or, like, carvings, really, of pictures, because they didn't have pictures at that time.
Oh, really? They weren't photographing?
Nope. Or they would leave, like, valuable objects, like grave goods, basically. But these are the things that they thought that they were going to need in the afterlife.
Okay.
So there'd be pottery, coins, jewelry, knives, like, things that they just thought that, like, were going to be important. They'd leave games so that you had something to do on the other side.
Nice, I love it.
Yeah. So, like, their thought was, like, whatever you leave there, you're going to be able to use in the afterlife.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, every year, like, families would visit these tombs and, like, make more offerings and, like, decorate the tomb just to, like, keep the dead in mind.
Sure.
So, what they kind of thought happened when you died was the first thing was Thanatos, who is the god of death, would come down, he would cut a lock of your hair. And then you would die.
Okay.
So then Hermes, who is like the messenger god, would then bring you to the underworld and bring you to either the river Styx or there's another one that I don't remember if I wrote it down, or Acheron. Okay. So it's like kind of debated which one you were actually going to come in contact with. Some say it's river Styx, some stories say it's Acheron. For the sake of this, I'm going to say it's the river Styx because that's the one I've always heard. So before this also happened too, like the dead would be washed and you'd have a coin placed in your mouth because that was supposed to symbolize payment for the ferryman who was going to take you across the river Styx. Okay. So you basically got, like, Hermes brings you there. You're on the beach, you're waiting for the ferry, and then Charon, who is supposedly the ferryman, basically puts you on the boat and transports you down the river. Okay. Now, he can only do this if you were buried. If you were not buried, you basically wander the beach until you are given a proper burial. Okay. Or I think, like, your family makes some sort of special offering. Okay. It wasn't very clear. I read, like, something that, like, now you're doomed to the beach for 100 years, or, like, it's all these weird things. Okay. But you best be getting a coin in your mouth so that you can pay the ferryman. So then you're going down the river Styx. You're going to encounter Cerberus, who is the three-headed dog. He's basically the guardian of the underworld, so, like, he makes sure that nobody can leave. Okay. You're in, and that's it. You're not allowed to leave after that. So after you get, like, across the river, the first place that you arrive at is called the Asphodel Meadows, or the Asphodel Fields. This is where you will forget all of your memories from your former life. Okay. You're supposed to drink from, there's a couple rivers, which we'll go over eventually, but it's called the Lethe. It's called the River of Forgetfulness, and it's associated with the goddess Lethe, who is the goddess of forgetfulness and oblivion. Okay. So you do that, you completely clear your head of anything that possibly happened to you, your death, everything is gone. So then you will come before 3 judges, and they're going to decide where to send your soul. Okay. So there's 3 places that you could end up. You can either go to Tartarus, which is like their version of hell. People were imprisoned and doomed to suffer the worst punishments of all eternity. It takes the soul 9 days to reach Tartarus because it is so far below the underworld that no light touches it. It's just complete darkness. It's surrounded by night. And it's, as I said, it's kind of like associated with hell. So that's all your punishments and everything are down there. Okay. So you can either go there, you can go to Elysium, which is where you would want to end up. That, I don't want to call it heaven because it's not. It's like heaven 2.0. Okay. Almost. So that's where, like, all, like, the heroes mostly end up. Okay. Or, like, people of quote-unquote worth, almost.
Is it, like, a step below Olympus? Is it, like, what happens there that makes it, like, where you want to go?
So you're free from work and, like, troubles and everything. Like, it's just kind of, it is kind of like heaven, but, like, it's more, I'm not elusive. I keep wanting to say elusive, but it's not elusive that I'm looking for. It's more, like, picky about who is allowed there. Okay,
elite.
Yes. So most people aren't going to Elysium. Okay. You have to be, like, the purest of souls and have, like, actually, like, done something with your life in order to go there.
Okay, cool. We're fucked.
Yeah. Or The third option is if the judges cannot decide where to put you, they send you right back to the Asphodel Meadows.
They're like, you're not great, but you're also not terrible.
That's exactly what it is. So that's where, like, majority of people end up going. It's, like, the in-between place. So you're not, you know, you didn't do anything noteworthy, but you didn't do anything horrible either.
Right.
So, like, you know, they just kind of throw you there. But you basically live in eternal mindfulness because now you've forgotten your entire life prior. You don't know anything, really. You're just kind of wandering around in oblivion. Which to me is just really fucking sad.
Yeah, I
wouldn't
love
want that.
No.
It's just like, it's called the region of indifference, really.
Oh, God.
Which just, like...
It's just one long depressive episode.
Yeah, like, it just bums me the fuck out. So, there also is, like, another place that you can go, which, once again, we would never go there, because we'll never make it there. And that's called the Isles of the Blessed.
Okay.
That is for people who were probably already in Elysium, but, like, who, like, you're given a choice whether or not you want to be reborn or if you want to stay in Elysium.
Okay.
If you decide to be reborn and you come back to Elysium 3 times, you are now allowed to go to the Isle of the Blessed.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, that is, like...
And that's eternal
the
paradise.
upper, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that is top-notch place to be. But you gotta get there 3 times.
Damn.
3 lives you gotta live being the greatest person of all time in order to make it there, which I think is trash. I'm just gonna go settle in the asphodel fields.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a little nap in those flowers over there.
Yeah. So, that basically is, like, how things are decided. There is also, like, the underworld is not just some blank-ass slate of nothingness. In front of the entrance to the underworld, you have a couple different things living there. So we have Penthos, which is the god of grief, Cure, which is anxiety, Nosoi, which is diseases, Geras, which is old age, Phobos, which is fear, Lemos, which is hunger, Aporia, which is need, the god of death, Thanatos, Algea, which is agony, and Hypnos, which is sleep. So they all kind of reside before the entrance.
Okay. Like along the river Styx.
I guess so,
Okay.
yeah.
I love it. They've got waterfront housing.
Yeah.
They're just
nice
watching
neighborhood.
people get... Yeah. Sounds
Yep.
wonderful.
Then on the other threshold, like crossing that, you have Polemos, which is war, the Erinyes, which... I'm trying to remember what they were. They're not the fates. They're more concerned, if this is the one I'm thinking of, they're more concerned with, like, people who have done wrong to, like, their parents. So if you kill your dad,
very specific.
it is. Like, so, like, if you kill your parents or, like, anyone in your family, they're the ones that are gonna fuck your life up.
That's so specific.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. And then Eris, which is discord. Around the doors, there's a lot of, like, creatures, including hydras, centaurs, gorgons, and chimera. There is a lot of, like, of the darker gods. Most of them reside in the underworld. My girl Hecate is down there.
Hecate is a Greek god?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. She is. She's, like, one of the minor Greek gods.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she chills down in the underworld. Who did you think she was part of?
I don't know. I don't know. I thought she was part of, like, one of the Germanic mythos.
Greek. So you have, like, death down there. The sleep gods are down there. So, like, all the darker things. Nyx. So she's the goddess of night. She's down there. So they kind of have their own little neighborhood. And just...
Cool. They're just hanging out.
Yeah. Hades, obviously, because the underworld is technically named Hades after Hades. So he's the one that kind of, like, maintains it, takes care of it. Apparently he's, like, super hated, though, but, like, doesn't deserve all the hate from what I was reading.
Yeah, from, like, what I know of Greek mythology, that is true. Because he's not... Thanatos is the death god. Hades is the god of the underworld,
but like
not the dead.
Thanatos is actually the god of like peaceful death.
Okay.
So like he's not coming to like fuck your day up. He's just like coming, like you're sleeping and he's like, it's time. You know, there's a whole separate goddess like that is more of like the goddess of like trauma deaths,
violent deaths.
Yeah, like violent deaths. I can't remember what her name is, but they have like death gods for like everything. So like Hades gets a bad rap because like, you know, he rules the underworld, but
he's just doing his job.
He's just doing his job, yeah, and he's not like violent or anything.
No, he's doing a damn good job at his job too.
Yeah, he's just doing what he's supposed to do.
He's got the system all worked out. He's giving you guys housing.
Yeah. He's got friends down there. How dare you hate on him?
Yeah. You get to take a nice riverboat ride.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you obviously have him. You have Persephone down there. She doesn't really rule over anything, though. Like, she's kind of like...
Nah, she's just, like, like, by his side, right?
Yeah, like she's not in charge of anything. And I think that was, like, really... it as for who's kind of down there, but I do want to go over like the rivers because the rivers are actually really interesting. There are rivers in Greece that are named after these.
Oh, cool.
So like they're places that you can go to. So you have the river Styx, which is known as the river of hatred.
Okay.
And that is like the most prominent river in the underworld. It is named after the goddess Styx, which her story is super interesting because apparently she was kind of like the goddess of like oaths. So like most of the like promises and things that the gods had to offer had to be done with her. Or like her as like a witness, or so they made like the river Styx so that like when the gods made these deals and promises and oaths to each other, they had to do it on like the shores of the river Styx to like bind them because that was like super important. But then it kind of backfired because when they made these oaths and promises and all this shit, they had to follow through with it,
right? And the gods aren't exactly good at that.
Yeah, so like there's a whole story too, like about like how the Achilles heel became a thing. So like whoever Achilles' mom is, I don't know.
I don't know off the top
but
of my
like
head.
when he was a baby, she dipped him in the river Styx because it's supposed to like offer like some kind of protection as well. But like dipped him in holding his heel. So when he came out,
it was
he
the
was
only
protected.
spot that was unprotected.
Only unprotected spot. So that's how he ended up dead. But once again, there was like a loophole in all of this too, where like these gods would have to uphold this stuff, and then like they didn't have a choice. Where like some of the daughters and sons of these gods maybe wanted to die and like they didn't want to do it, but like if they had an oath to them they had to. Like there was just weird loopholes. Like I wish I had written it down because it was better explained than how I fucking just did it, but it's just really interesting. And then you have Acheron, which is the river of pain. That was also kind of up there with the river Styx, as they said, like, you might be going across that. It's not very clear. But that's there. And then Lethe, which is the river of forgetfulness, which we went over. There's also Phlegethon, which is the river of fire. This is the one that will lead you down to Tartarus. Then there's Cocytus, which is the river of wailing. I couldn't really find a lot of information about it, though. Like, cool, it's a river of wailing, but, like, why? Like,
I don't know.
Do you cross it? Do people get thrown in it?
Yeah.
Is it, like, a punishment?
I imagine it to be, like, the one in the Hercules animated movie where it's got all the souls in it.
I think that's Styx.
I think it's Styx, too, but I feel like Disney probably just used creative,
yeah.
You know, everybody knows about the river Styx.
It's true. And then there's Oceanus, which is the river that encircles the world, and it marks the east edge of the underworld. So it kind of helps create, like, boundaries there. There's also a goddess associated with that, but she wasn't that important, so I didn't include her. But yeah, that's kind of all I have on that. It was just, like, as I said, it was interesting because I thought it was going to be, like, a whole thing about, like, Hades, but, like, Hades is barely mentioned in this. Like, everybody else is, like, doing the work.
I also love the like, the juxtaposition of the two topics. Like, the Vikings were like, yeah, you die, you go somewhere.
Yeah.
But the Greeks were like, no, this is exactly what happens. We know exactly what's coming.
Well, what's funny, too, is that, like, the Greeks didn't think that, like, the afterlife was, like, that important, but, like, also did kind of think it was important. Like,
yeah.
I think it was, like, let's not take a risk.
yeah.
Like, just in case. Like,
honestly, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, but, like, when you got there, like, everybody, like, no one really lived an inherently, no one had an inherently great time there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
unless you're going to Elysium.
Yeah. But, like, for the most part, like, you're either living in indifference or, like, you're getting your ass beat down indoors. So, like, me.
Either way, it's like, it's not a good time.
No, but I think it worked as kind of, like, motivation for people to, like,
absolutely
do more. Because if they thought that, like, that was going to get them into Elysium.
For sure.
I think that was something that I read that was like, you know what, it kind of helped, like, the Greeks live, like, these moral and just lives where, like, they tried to make a difference in something or tried to do more because, like, hey, you could go to Elysium.
Absolutely.
But who knows? So I just, like, love the idea of, like, what people's afterlife thoughts are.
I know. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah. Levels are complicated for me. Like, I hope that there's no levels if there's an afterlife.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
I've done nothing.
So I also think it's so interesting just, like, how, I mean, every culture has something different, but you can find these similarities in them all. And I think that's so interesting. Like, there is this, like, common woven thread in so many of them.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of them, like, have that idea of, like, putting things near the graves because those are the things you're going to need in the afterlife. Other than, like, you know, Buddhism where they don't want you to have anything.
Right.
Because you're not going to need it.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, the Egyptians and the Vikings and the Greeks all have that idea.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's cool. And then there's Americans, and we don't do anything.
Well, no, not anymore. But our funeral rites have changed a lot over the course of, like, you know, civilization as well.
Yeah, but did we do anything interesting before?
I mean, you have to think that, like, most Anglo culture at some point goes back to, like, the Germanic people, which encompasses, like, the Vikings and stuff like that.
I guess so.
So, like, it's all an evolution, you know?
Yeah. It's just, like, I think about it now, because I feel like in some cultures, like, even today, like, death is such a big deal where it's like, yeah, you know what, they might not be leaving, like, toys and games for them to play with in the underworld, but, like, I feel like there's still, like, importance to it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, I guess I just don't feel like that in America.
I think that it's all just part of, like, it is part of the importance that you put on it, and we definitely have had, like, our culture change and stuff. Think about, like, the Victorian era. Victorian death photos were, like, the biggest fad.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, it's definitely evolved and changed, and you assign importance to the things that matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, it's just cool to see, like, what other people's things are.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there was all separate levels.
Yeah.
Thought it was the underworld and Tartarus.
Super interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I have.
Cool.
And,
I enjoyed that thoroughly. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, if you want to know anything about that, there's a whole bunch of books on Greek myths.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I probably own half of them. I have so many mythology books. I didn't even think to look in there for any of this. I was staring at them the other day. I was like, I wonder what kind of myths I have. Like, I have one on, like, Viking mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I have Greek mythology. I think I have Egyptian and Scottish mythology. So many fucking myths.
Yeah, if you're interested more in Norse mythology, Neil Gaiman wrote a book on it, and I mean, Neil Gaiman is fantastic, so that's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, there's also Bullfinch's mythology.
Yeah, Bullfinch's.
I think that's mostly Norse mythology.
I believe so, and that one's pretty popular as well.
Yeah. There's also just, like, I think it's by Edith Hamilton. It's just called Mythology, and I think that's mostly Greek, but I know at the end of that they touch on a bit of Norse mythology as well. Mm-hmm. It's a very small section, but it is there. I don't think there's Egyptian mythology in there, but I know for a fact that there's, like, Greek and Roman. So that's it.
All right. And with that, Spooktober is over.
Spooktober is not over in our hearts.
It's never over in our hearts.
No.
But we'll be back next week with some random ass bullshit.
That's, like usual. So, bye.